I want to thank the Institute for Peace and Diplomacy for bringing together thought leaders, policy makers, and partners to advance the discussions on Canada's role in the dynamic region that is the Indo-Pacific. And thank you to our group of panelists who will be coming up shortly for being here and for your leadership in advancing the dialogue and cooperation across the Indo-Pacific. I'd like to take a few moments to provide an overview of some of the key achievements of the Indo-Pacific Strategy since it launched in 2022. And I look forward as well as talking a bit about what the future holds as we update the strategy. The Indo-Pacific has become even more critical to Canada's security since the strategy's adoption in 2022. A time of rising tension, we have deepened our defense partnership with key allies by signing new agreements with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. Canada now deploys 3 Royal Canadian Navy warships annually to reinforce maritime security and uphold the rule of law. We're also supporting ASEAN-led peace efforts in Myanmar and contributing to sanctions monitoring against North Korea through Operation Neon. Cybersecurity is another priority for Canada in the Indo-Pacific. A notable example is BlackBerry's expansion in Malaysia, establishing a regional hub for digital resilience. On the economic engagement and trade diversification, the region is really central to Canada's economic future. In 2024, our two-way trade with the region reached $261 billion, and 5 of Canada's 10 trading partners are now in the Indo-Pacific. Since 2022, we've led Team Canada trade missions to 9 countries, opened new offices to support Canadian businesses, and signed landmark agreements, including the recent Canada-Indonesia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and a Foreign Investment Protection Agreement with Taiwan. Looking ahead, we'll accelerate negotiations with ASEAN, Thailand, and the Philippines, while continuing to champion open, inclusive, and rule-based trade through platforms like APEC and CPTPP. On climate action and sustainable development, through FinDev, Canada's committed $59 million for Thailand's renewable energy transition and $40 million for climate finance in Vietnam. We're also partnering with the Asian Development Bank on renewable energy projects such as a 600-megawatt wind farm in Laos, and exploring opportunities to share Canada's expertise in civilian nuclear energy to support ASEAN's energy security. As we all know, the world has changed dramatically since 2022. In response, Minister Anand has asked Global Affairs to update the Indo-Pacific strategy so it reflects the government's priorities, particularly on economic resilience and security. What does this mean? It means that positioning Canada, we need to position Canada as a trusted partner in critical minerals, energy. We need to resettle trade relations with India and recalibrate engagement with China to advance mutual interests while safeguarding national security. Phase 2 of the strategy will also ensure coherence across new policies, including the trade diversification strategy and defense industrial strategy outlined in Budget 2025. Global shifts have only reaffirmed the Indo-Pacific's importance for Canada. The recent high-level visits from Prime Minister Carney, Minister Anand, and Minister Sidhu, to name a few, underscore this commitment. As we shape the next phase of the strategy, I look forward to hearing from your views on how we can sharpen our focus and strengthen Canada's role as a reliable partner in this dynamic region. I thank you all for your time, and I hope that we get to have a good discussion with our ambassadors and high commissioners who are here with us today. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, now as we transition to the ambassadorial panel, let me briefly frame what we are about to do. We have roughly an hour. We are a bit, maybe less than an hour, with some of the top diplomats representing key countries from the region. every year at the Indo-Pacific Strategy Forum, we have an ambassador panel, and we work intentionally to make sure that there is a diversity of views from the region. And this year is, of course, no different. And as you may have seen, actually, in the program, we were supposed to have the Australian High Commissioner with us, but due to some last-minute scheduling constraints, she and her delegation, thank you very much, her delegation, they had to leave town, so they're not in town. But that gives us more opportunities to hear from other representatives on this panel. Before I'm briefly introducing our panelists, just a quick note on format and housekeeping. I'll begin with a general question for all the panelists to explore their views on the Indo-Pacific engagement, and especially in light of Valérie's remarks. And then we'll move to country-specific questions to better understand each country's priorities and how they approach their relationship with Canada here in Ottawa. And of course, throughout the session, our panelists are warmly encouraged to engage with each other, to complement and respond, and even challenge if anybody knows how to disagree diplomatically. It's the people sitting right next to me. So. And the final note, we will not have a Q&A for this session, but we will move directly into the networking reception, and so you'll have the opportunity to engage with the ambassadors personally and ask the questions that you have. With that, let me very briefly introduce our panelists without going through their full biographies, because their career accomplishment would take another hour to go through. Right next to me, Her Excellency Shazelina Zainul Abidin, High Commissioner of Malaysia to Canada. Thank you for accepting our invitation. His Excellency Dinesh Patnaik, the new High Commissioner of the Republic of India to Canada, and I have to add that I believe this is the first public engagement of the new Indian High Commissioner in Canada, and we are very much honored to have the opportunity to host him in Ottawa, and welcome to Canada as well, Your Excellency. Last but not least, Mr. Younggi, Chargé d'Affaires and Minister from the Embassy of the Republic of Korea to Canada. So let's begin. So we'll proceed in the same order that I introduced the speakers. So let me begin with a general question to all of you, but it needs a bit of context setting. So for the non-Canadians in the room who don't follow the Canadian politics, today is a big day. Prime Minister Carney's very first budget is getting voted on in the next couple hours or so. And part of this big budget is that the government is committing to doubling Canada's non-U.S. trade with a strong focus on supply chain resilience, deeper Indo-Pacific engagement, and renewed commitment to a rules-based economic order, which Valérie also alluded to. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks this morning, this government, compared to the previous one, appears to be more serious, strategic, and pragmatic in how it conducts and views foreign policy. And a good example of that is the better relations that now we have with both India and China, which is not a minor development. So given this evolving context, now to our speakers, from your country's perspective, how do you view these latest developments here in Ottawa? And what do you think Canada could do differently in compared to the past 3 years of this Indo-Pacific strategy, which is going under review, and there's going to be some, there's going to be some updates moving forward, and how it could better align such strategy with the regional expectation in a way that it both advances the Canadian interests, but as well as the countries in the region, in the Indo-Pacific region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yunus, and a very good afternoon to all. I'd like to give a quick shout out to our colleagues, Kazakhstan, Nepal, and Pakistan, who are here. So with that in mind, remembering that they're also Indo-Pacific, it's good that the Canadian government is rethinking or reviewing the Indo-Pacific strategy. Now, a lot of things, I know everybody has a lot to complain about the Indo-Pacific strategy, but to give it its due, it has done a lot. The objectives that it set out at the very beginning in 2022, it has more or less achieved. I'll give you an example. Canada promised to have a presence, a diplomatic presence in all of the ASEAN member states. The fact that we suddenly became 11 is it's not their fault. So they have done that. There are 10 countries in which they are present diplomatically. They've signed the SEPA. Lots of things that are in the Indo-Pacific strategy are done. But at the same time, as with everything else, it can be made better. And one of the things that I think I've always said is that ASEAN, and this is coming back to the panel before us, is that ASEAN is not a mono. It's not one region. It is one region. It's not just one. You can't have one strategy just for the whole of ASEAN. You have to have different strategies for the different countries of ASEAN. You've heard how ASEAN is such that it will not choose sides. Don't ask it to choose sides. And this is something that Weldon has said. Don't ask ASEAN to choose sides. It will not. We've managed to balance between the whatever powers there are. We will continue to do so, hopefully, in a very diplomatic, in a very economically beneficial way for us. So whatever it is, the pivot, ASEAN was designed to be unique in the sense that every single country actually has a veto power. So every single country actually does what it wants to do. But it comes back to the group and then it discusses it. So this is the uniqueness of ASEAN. And because of that, Canada should take each and every ASEAN country separately, differently. Play to its strengths, prop up its weaknesses, but it has to be layered. Can't be just one. So, Korea has its own section in the Indo-Pacific strategy. Japan has, India has, China has to a certain degree. And then you have all 10 ASEAN members as one section in the Indo-Pacific strategy. So that's one. The second thing is, I don't have the answers of how Canada should deal with this volatile world or this changing world. But I need to come back to history. Canada is one of those countries that I think in the last 10 years it has forgotten how international it was. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm a student of international relations. My thesis was on the responsibility to protect. And I see Kai, his eyes rolling upwards. So responsibility to protect is one of those ideas that came out of Canada. Canada has always had ideas out of, its southern neighbors. It's always had those ideas. The anti-landmine ban treaty, human security. So there is no dearth of ideas in Canada. I think it's just forgotten in the last 10 years how to internationalize it. So this is what Canada will probably need to do if it wants to survive or thrive in the new volatile world. Come up with new ideas. And I don't have that crystal ball.
Very good. Thank you very much for your remarks. Now I have a quick follow-up question with you because much of your remarks were focused on ASEAN, how different strategies need to be employed. And we know that Malaysia held the chairmanship of the ASEAN this year, and Prime Minister Carney also participated in the most recent ASEAN summit. So what kind of, what outcomes or lesson from your chairmanship are the most relevant bringing it into the Canadian context for strengthening the multilateral trade rules and economic coordination, and what kind of a role Canada could play in this dynamic?
When you talk about ASEAN chairmanship, I always say that it's the ASEAN chairmanship, you're not in the driving seat. You are essentially the logistics person. You end up holding, this year it was 374 meetings altogether, which is a lot for one ministry, 3 ministries to do. So I see how Canada does G7. It's not the same. There's more, there's more substantive to it. ASEAN this year had to be all over the place. It had to manage that volatile world. So there's actually nothing much that I could add on to what Canada can take away from ASEAN. It's everybody's trying to find their own way, and you know, as I said, Canada's strong, but Canada needs to find its own way. In terms of international relations, in our region, in the Southeast Asia region, we look at Australia and we look at New Zealand. And New Zealand has its own independent foreign policy away from its bigger neighbor. So it's not impossible, it is possible. Just how you're going to pivot.
Thank you very much. Now over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. You know, I really don't need to say anything because she said it all. Because, no, it's true. I mean, Canada was instrumental in starting many of the efforts around the world. And if you forget, you got the Nobel Prize for peacekeeping. Yes. Where are you in peacekeeping today? But that we can talk about it later. But overall, what Valérie said and what Zainul has said here, Canada has got its entire policy framework for its Indo-Pacific strategy in place. It's done a lot. It's got the policy framework in place. It's put up ambassadors in most places. It's got trade missions. It's got the export development offices. It's got agri-food offices. It's set up a cyber intelligence system. It does a DVD, which is for looking at IUU fishing. You name it. Everything is there in the framework. What is not there? What's not there is that's what we need to talk about. First one, let's look at trade, for example. So Prime Minister Mark Carney says you need to double trade in the next 10 years. Double trade, non-US trade. Now, non-US trade today is about 30% of your trade because what Sarah Wilcox told me the other day, it's 68% to 70% goes to the US, which means that 30%. If you have to double means 60%. That's not going to work. There's no way you're going to go up to 60%, which means at least you should double Indo-Pacific trade, which is the only one possible. Now, doubling Indo-Pacific trade means 10% more. What is 10% more? 270 billion. I mean, 261 was last year. This year would be about 270 billion. So you need 270 billion in bilateral trade. You're buying more from the Indo-Pacific, from everybody. You're buying from China, you're buying from India, you're buying from the ASEAN, Korea, Japan, everybody. Your ability to buy more is restricted because you already have a trade deficit with most of these countries. And the kind of stuff you need to buy, given your population, you're about 40 million, there isn't much you can buy more. It's already reached quite a lot. So the progress that you can have will be less. So what is the alternative? The alternative is to sell more, right? And you have sitting on resources. You're the third largest reserves of oil in the world. You're the fourth largest reserve of natural gas. I mean, you're selling natural gas. You have critical minerals. You have uranium. You have agriculture, agri-food. You have all the things that is necessary. But you don't have the systems to sell it. TMX took, 15 years to come into place. The last time the port that was there next to TMX, which has the supply line, was in 1957. So after 1957, the first time a pipeline goes out of the West Coast. Vancouver Port and Port Rupert and others in the West Coast do not have the capacity to take another $280 billion of trade. No way. So you need to focus inside. You need to see. As much as you can think of a strategy, you've got the strategy for your external thing well put into place, but you need to focus inside. You need to focus on where all the investments can be. And you need to open it up. We are all interested. We would like to buy more on oil and gas, more fertilizers, more food, more potash, more, you name it. Everything we would like to buy more. And you're looking at an area which is India, ASEAN, China, South Korea, Japan, which has the largest 60% of the world's population and growing. So it's not as if it's a stagnant population. It's the only area which is growing. Requirements will be more. And so Canada's ability to be able to provide to them will make up that 10% if you want to. There's no other way you can do it. You make your mathematics, just go down to simple mathematics, there's no way you can do it. So that's the trade part. But you also sitting on huge amount of investable funds. Your pension funds sit on more than 3 trillion, 4 trillion in pensionable funds. You're sitting on a large number of financing. You're doing climate financing to a small extent, like you said, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in other places, small climate finance. You need to get into infrastructure financing because the infrastructure is not only this side, infrastructure is on the other side. You need to get into infrastructure financing to be able to bridge the gap, to be able to sell your products, to buy, but also to deploy your funds in the most investable manner. And in sustainable green energy, which you are very good at. And so these things you need to look at financing. So financial flows, trade. These are easy wins, but you need to work within more than out. All of us are ready to work with you. You need to find out how you can do it better. You have wasted quite some time. I don't want to say 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. That's a number you can put on it. But you have wasted enough time. It's time you came out and started doing this. What else can you do? Because for you, I want to go back to what my friend, the High Commissioner of Malaysia said, is peace and security. Peace and security, the Indo-Pacific region, despite it being one of the most vibrant regions in the world, also is beset with problems. It's not a region which is static. There are issues between countries, issues in region. There are every possible issue that you can talk of is in the Indo-Pacific. Canada has always come in as somebody who is a stable, balancing force. You need to restructure that in a manner in which you go into the region without creating further divisions. You don't have to carry your, I don't want to say prejudices or your other things to the region. Don't come at it as a Western country coming into an Asian. Come in as an Asian trying to work as an Asian. It's very important, that difference. Sometimes you carry prejudices which countries of the region do not like. And do not let Canada be misused by people from the region to create problems there. Don't become a region which becomes a creator of problems for the Indo-Pacific. Because that's very, very important. You have to look at it. Focus on maritime awareness. So in maritime security, that region needs what is called maritime domain awareness. Maritime domain, what you're doing with the DVD is you need to do. You have satellites sitting up there. You don't have launch vehicles. We can help you launch it if you want. But you have satellites which cover the region. We can work together. We have the biggest maritime development domain awareness center of Asia. We should work together to make sure that grey shipping, unregulated illegal fishing, you name it, smuggling, all of this can be maintained. And Canada is one of the top countries in this area. You should be more active in those areas. Second is cybersecurity. You have some of the strongest cybersecurity companies, mechanisms which are working here. Quantum encryption comes part of that. We are all open. We are all ready. You have to decide how to come in there. So this, for me, the Indo-Pacific, your policy framework is in place. All you need to do is to start implementing in a manner, because you don't have time. If you start today, you'll finish it in 10 years. It takes a long time. But the third part, which is most important, which I always wanted to tell, and I've always found this, is while the government is ready, the policy framework is ready, everything is ready, Canadians overall are very unaware of Asia. I mean, I talk to people, India probably, they know China, they probably. You tell them the 10 countries of ASEAN or now the 11 countries, nobody will be able to recite all 11 of them. Probably some in this room also may not know all 11 of them. But the point is that awareness, because governments may set up the structure, but at the end it's businesses and people who have to implement it. Government is not going to go and do the trading, the business, the buying, selling, the financial flows. It's the people and if they're not aware of the potential, of the opportunities, of what is necessary to be done in the Indo-Pacific area, then Canada will never be able to meet that. Doubling of non-US trade, I don't think we can meet it, but at least doubling of Indo-Pacific trade, that we can help you meet it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before the panel, the High Commissioner was telling me that do you want me to be a diplomat or an honest, speaker? No, but thank you very much for your remarks. I have a follow-up question, because much of your remarks were focused on what needs to be done internally, in Canada to be able to double its non-US trade just with the Indo-Pacific, not globally. But when it comes to Canada-India relations in particular, you've covered some fields, cybersecurity, maritime. Which other fields do you think would be the most efficient and effective to invest, especially in the short term, and then build on it moving forward? And within that context, how do you think that revisiting the early progress trade agreement between the two countries can play a role in that?
No, thank you. With India, Canada, we can do a lot. I mean, before I came here, I had no idea the depth of our relationship. Really, frankly, we do from everything from nuclear to space to solar to you name it. There is no field in which we are not working together. But the numbers and trade don't go by that, because that's only 23 billion when you look at bilateral trade in goods and services, both 23, 24 US dollars, not Canadian. Canadian is about 32 billion Canadian dollars. But that's not. You have an investment together of about 150 billion Canadian dollars, which is huge, the kind of investment that is there from Canada and India. But in every sector, whether it's students, it's research, it's innovation, it's AI, quantum, space, nuclear, we're doing a whole lot of things. Things went into a chill, which all of you know about for the last 2 years. I'm here after the chill, though the chill outside is worse than the chill inside. But overall, we are in a space where we are now getting back to what we should have been earlier. We've had a visit of Minister Anand, which came out with a joint statement, which put a new roadmap for what we need to do in the next few years. And then my Minister Jaishankar, he came for the G7, where he had another very fruitful meeting with Minister Anand. And then, of course, Minister Sidhu was in India recently. We are going to have a finance minister, our agriculture minister, ministers from this side. For the next 1 year, they're not going to let me sit still. So it's going to be a difficult one. But apart from that, the point is we can do a lot. And the early progress, from what I heard from my Canadian colleagues, and I completely agree with them when I talk to them, the early progress was done because it was felt that the larger free trade agreement was beset with problems, and that the early progress could get into areas which are quick wins and to do it quickly. But what has happened, and we agree with them, is that over the last few years that we've been discussing, we have both moved forward a lot on many issues. We have signed a free trade agreement with the UK, with the EFTA region, with Australia, with UAE. We've signed a whole lot of free trade agreements. Canada also has moved forward. They've signed with Indonesia. They're almost on the verge of signing with ASEAN, if I'm correct. They're negotiating with other countries of the region. So people have moved forward on their positions, and so we need to make it to take advantage of that moving forward on things to put together a more comprehensive economic partnership rather than just focus on trade, which means that use trade but also go into investment and financial flows, banking, Mode 4 issues, research and innovation. So putting together a larger economically comprehensive package, which is an economic partner, which would be far better than just that. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We got a bit more positive, balanced out. Now let's hear from our Korean colleague. Let's hear the Korean perspectives on Canada's evolving Indo-Pacific strategy.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to speak on this prestigious forum. And I think nobody denied the importance of the Indo-Pacific areas for the global economies and politics, whatever. And as Indian ambassador mentioned, that the Indo-Pacific area accounts for around 2/3 of the world population and the global GDP. So important. This area, the stability and the openness of this region are closely linked to the global prosperity. And I want to highlight why Korea is the natural partner to Canada, because Korea is a natural partner in advancing Canada government's core policy, such as diversifying trade and enhancing, strengthening the military capability, defense capabilities, as well as promoting the world global free trade. Korea has a population of over 50 million people, and Korea is the around 10th world strongest economy. And Korea is a manufacturing-driven economy with the 6th highest manufacturing output. And other than that, we have also second largest global market share in important manufacturing areas such as semiconductors, shipbuilding, and electronic vehicle batteries, and so on. So, and also Korea is the third largest energy importer and the second largest distributor or supplier of weapons to NATO countries. So that list can go on further, but I had better stop here why Korea is a natural partner. So I am well aware of that. Canada is trying to have strengthening the relations with old allies in Europe in order to overcome the instability of the global trade turbulence, something like that. And I think that, however, that the new threat or new environment might new friends, not just old friends in Europe, new friends in Indo-Pacific countries, including Korea. And so in this regard, as Valérie already mentioned, that the Canadian government is trying to expand Indo-Pacific strategy, but still we are very interested with how the Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy announced in 2022 will be further developed, expanded to cope with these global challenges. And I assume that the Canadian government is interested with the discussion and interest how to connect the regional trade bloc to expand the global free trade order. And so in this regard, I think that the Canadian government is that proactive vision to connect regional trade bloc is in line with the Canadian government's policy prioritizing the free trade and the investment expansion. And so I'm looking forward to also witnessing how this initiative will develop further and how the Canadian government's contribution for that trend, because Korea is, in terms of the old export free trade oriented economy, Korea is might be the #1 country. But we are very dependent on exports, so we are very welcome to the global free trade proliferation, so-called. And in this sense, Korea is very proud to be a front runner in signing a large number of FTA and enjoying the fruits of the free trade agreement. So in this regard, also the Korean government is planning to be a member of the CPTPP agreement. I know that Canada is a member of the CPTPP, and Canada is also interested with connecting CCPPT and the European Union to utilize the potential merits of the broader regional trade bloc. So when my government choose to initiate the accession procedure to CCPPT, and I know that in principle Canadian government supports our Korea's accession to the CCPPT. So I hope that at an appropriate time in the future, when Korea plans to initiate the accession process, then the Canadian government help to facilitate the accession process. And one last point is that the Arctic route, I think that is also a very good momentum opportunity for Indo-Pacific area, especially Korea and Canada, to cooperate further, because if the navigation through the Arctic route becomes commercially operational, then it will boost the economic benefits for Korea and Canada, as well as boost the global trade volume by lowering the transportation costs. So I hope that Korea and Canada, or Indo-Pacific countries and Canada, will continue to cooperate further for that opportunity, turn that opportunity into the potential.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Just a very quick follow-up question, and I know that you have some comments to share. Let's say that the Korean annexation actually takes place. What would be the impact of that for Canada-Korea bilateral trade relations? What kind of an upgrade, for example, we would see?
So first of all, Korea and Canada already signed conclude FTA.
Yeah.
This year is the 10th anniversary. So Korea, when the Korea becomes the member of the CPTPP, so I mean, I'm not an expert to clarify what are the benefits, what are the added value benefits, but definitely because CPTPP is a progressive and comprehensive free-trade level, so definitely we will have more bigger trade volumes between our two countries. Yeah.
Thank you. Over to you.
I actually wanted to build on what Dinesh said. No, it really did spark something, because Canada's internationalization, let's put it that way, you're not EU, you're not the United States, so you need to bring something else to the table, or you need to have a different outlook to the Indo-Pacific. And I like that idea that you need to be a little bit more Asian in order to deal with the Asians.
And you have 10% of the diaspora here.
Oh, yes. He has 10% of the diaspora. I only have 2,000 people here. So, no, but that part about being more Asian, it makes sense. Also, the infrastructure that Dinesh said about, he was being very diplomatic. The ports, if you look at Asian ports per se, top 10. Top 20 Asian ports, no problem. Where's Vancouver? Where's Halifax in the whole global system? Yes, port efficiency, port container efficiency. That's the mark by the benchmark by which we go. That's one. And I know Valérie knows this because I've told her again and again. Canada has about 415,000 square kilometers of roads. 40% are paved. 40%. That's a lot of unpaved roads. If you're talking about construction, and I think I don't want to steal Mark Carney's thunder in a bit, but Canada does need to build. It needs to build quickly. If you don't want China to come and help build, in the Indo-Pacific side you have India, you have some of the Southeast Asian countries who build very well in terms of construction. So it's a partnership. What Kai was saying, spot on. We're not looking for you to come and sell things to us. We're not looking to just come and sell things to you. We want a partnership. And this is where I think the future lies. That it has to be a partnership. That word that we always think about, the word that we always bandy about, collaboration. So much more than just buying and selling and trading. It's actually making that kind of partnership. And in the Asian culture, that idea of having that relationship is very important. I know you're dying to say something.
No. I totally agree with whatever she says.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to tell you there's no free trade in the world. You can have free trade agreements, but it's all, actually we should call it negotiated trade agreement because free trade never happens. So when you have negotiated trade means you have to negotiate things with the other country, which means that you have to build a relationship. You know Asia you cannot do without bargaining, even in supermarkets. And so that's the kind of thing you should do.
Thank you very much. So the next question I have is kind of like an open question. So the most effective path forward for Canada as it seeks to diversify its trade partnership, is it, to prioritize bilateral trade with each countries? Because Prime Minister Carney is very much committed to protecting and upholding this rule-based multilateral trade system, which is being challenged and broken or challenged by the tariffs and all the restrictive economic policies that we see coming from DC. Would it be the bilateral path or minilateral, try to work with the fewer countries, or still work through the institutions that we have, whether that's ASEAN, WTO, as well as APEC, to ensure that Canada's trade diversification efforts actually, bear fruits moving forward? Based on what I hear from our Indian colleague, High Commissioner, it's better to focus on bilateral. No. So, okay, if you can, share some insights on that.
My senior colleague goes first.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the benefit of being the only lady on the panel.
You have to.
Yeah. I think this idea about diversification, the same way I go back to the definition of collaboration. Diversification is something that you need to look at the definition of. Diversification means deepening as well as expanding. And it's not an impossible thing to double, trade with the non-US trade partners. Was it the non-US?
Non-US.
Non-US, yes. Non-US. It's not an impossible thing. And this is where you need to play with the figures a bit. I'll give you a story. In 1957, when Malaysia achieved independence, we were about this big in terms of economy. So most of the wealth was held by the Chinese. The Malays, the Indians, and all the other ethnic tribes or clans or groups only had about 10%, 15% of that whole pie. So what we did was, in the ensuing years, we expanded that pie. So you don't victimize those who already held the wealth. You just expanded the pie so that many more people could partake in the economic activity. And this is, I think, what the Prime Minister is talking about. You double the value, you double the volume, something or the other, without taking away from the United States. So if the pie was bigger, you don't the percentage might go lower. So it doesn't have to be 70% with the United States. The value might still be the same or around the same. It might even be bigger, but your whole pie then becomes much more. Don't know whether I'm making sense.
No, complete sense.
Okay, thank you. See, only the Indian will get me. So it's that kind of idea. So thinking outside of the box that Canada would need to do if it wants to be successful in the next 5-10 years. But the first thing I think you need to do is definitely, when you talk about bilateral trade agreements. The bilateral trade agreement that Malaysia and Cambodia signed with the United States, lots of controversies. But what's the alternative? It's better to have something than nothing at all. And in this kind of situation, and I'm giving away, I think, a trade secret here, you do, okay, the trade agreements need to be ratified. So you know the process. Okay? Okay, that's...
Yeah, It's very simple. If this question was asked by any other country, I would give a whole reasoning as to how you do minilateral, multilateral. You're G7 country. You're Canada. You have to do every way possible. I mean, you don't get to choose. I mean, if it's a small country with a small economy, I can understand you get to choose this or that because you don't have the capacity to do all of them. You're a G7 country, you do everything. You do multilateral, you do bilateral, you do plurilateral, you do minilaterals, you do whatever deals you can to reach your goal. And so that's very clear about it. But the most important thing here which you have to give people is a sense of reliability, that you stand the course. You don't want to see a situation where you say diversification now because Donald Trump is making life difficult for you, and then 3 years down the line when Donald Trump is no more, you say back to square one.
That was actually my question. So is that the thinking,
No, it is because you haven't done anything for the last 50 years.
No, actually,
No,
sorry, Dinesh, because in 2017, there was a chance to pivot. Canada did try to pivot for that one whole year and then came back to where it was in status quo. So people are just looking at that kind of history and wondering, we're going to get burnt again.
I'll tell you a secret of our negotiations in the past, in the multilateral forum. I'm not talking about bilateral. In the multilateral forum, we used to have a saying when they used to say, what about Canada? Whose side is it on? What position does it have? I said, don't have to bother. Just get the US on your side, they'll come on your side. Nobody took Canada seriously in the past. You didn't take yourself seriously. Forget about and no, I'm not being bad. You're a wonderful country. You've got huge potential, lovely people. All that is good. But you never stood up for yourselves. You did in the past what the High Commissioner of Malaysia said was true. You were path-breaking in the past. What Prime Minister Mark Carney says, used to build, used to suggest, used to have great ideas, big ideas. Somewhere you got comfortable, like Europe got comfortable also to a large extent. All of you got comfortable with your progress and the fact that one big southern neighbor took care of all of you. And so you became comfortable. But now you're uncomfortable, but that uncomfortable should allow you to plan for the next 20 years. Not that as soon as you become comfortable again after 3-4 years, which I hope you do, because the rest of the world also needs to be comfortable, not just you. Will you go back to your old ways or will you really go on the diversification? So my point is, you asked me what strategy. Use all strategies, but give the people you're talking to a sense of reliability that you are here for the long run. There's this old African saying which I always used to tell people, which is that if you are going fast, you go alone. But if you're going to go far, you have to go together. And the other people have to realize that you're going together with them.
Thank you very much. I wanted to also ask the same question if the thinking in Seoul is also that this is just the years that Canada have to deal with President Trump 2.0, and after that it will go back to the same old business.
Two things that bilateral and multilateral cooperation is a supplementary. And for example, Korea and Canada, we have a comprehensive strategic partnership, meaning that our cooperation is not only about develop or enhance our bilateral cooperation, but also the strategic partnership means that how we can cooperate in the global arena. So, and also this year is we as the chair of the APEC, and Canada as a G7 chair. So we have a lot of things to cooperate. So bilateral and multilateral could be a good two wheels for the international free trade. And also, as what you asked, that the President Trump's influence, impacts, we have also similar problem, negotiating with kind of tariff lower deals with the USA. Canada has also ongoing situation. So the Prime Minister Carney visited Korea last month or early this month, and one of the main topics is to share their experience and to cope with the U.S. government, how to efficiently cope with it's a good topics, and that they are both very happy.
Okay, thank you very much. Last question to all the panelists, and then we will close the session, and then we'll have the reception. So overall, you're more optimistic to the, to the Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy under the leadership of Mark Carney, as opposed to previous years, and if so, you've already discussed what kind of different, actions you want to see from, the Canadian side. But if you see such a commitment from your country, what kind of actions, you would be taking to encourage that this diversification efforts, actually stays on beyond what happens, in the next U.S. elections? Yeah.
I don't know, the Indo-Pacific strategy under the new Prime Minister, I think remains to be seen. It's yet to be written, hoping it writes itself very well. I was thinking about one of the things that is in the budget, and that's the reduction in the number of visas, or in the number of permanent residencies. And I don't see how a country like Canada, as big as Canada is, with 41 million people, Malaysia has 33 million. We're half the size of Alberta.
Korea has 50.
Yeah, Korea has 50. Okay. So,
Don't talk about us.
but we need to talk about you because Malaysia doesn't have asylum seekers, and because we're in the heart of Southeast Asia, where everyone is so much bigger than us except for Singapore. So everyone else is so much bigger, but yet we've managed to build the country because we've relied on foreign labor. We have a lot of agreements with South Asia, borrowing their people for labor, both skilled and unskilled, and that's how we built the country. They don't necessarily stay. They come I know one South Asian country, not India, but they come 10 years, they make their money, they provide their labor, and then they go home with the money that they have. It's a win-win situation. The transmission of money, the transmittance, it helps that country as well. So I'm thinking, maybe that's something that Canada can look at in terms of having that labor, because 41 million people, this size of a country, military, so you need the people. So maybe that's where the Indo-Pacific can come in, or the Asia-Pacific people can come in. We have a lot of people.
Just to take her from where she left off, I have this theory that a country of the size of Canada needs about 100 million people. That's the minimum you need to run this country. I mean, we can give you 60, but but that's not the point. The point is not about the people. The point is, he asked a question: what can see, the very fact that you set up your Indo-Pacific strategy at a time when Donald Trump was not there showed that you had your mind in the right direction. You did it in 22. And that time there was no Trump to force you to do it. If you'd have done it now, I would have said, okay, it's an effect of that. The very fact that you've thought ahead, that's your future. The future lies in that direction. And you planned for it. You put in place the entire infrastructure for it. So there's nothing. You have been forward thinking for a long time. It's not the first time. This is also again another point where you need to go out there and do the things. And whether it changes or not is not the point. The point is you have to give the impression that you are there for the long run, that Canada is a reliable partner, and you need to put your systems into place where you can benefit from what the world is doing. If you look at it across the world, the most dynamic area is the Indo-Pacific area. And, the numbers every day are going up, and unless you are plugged into that thing, you'll be left out. And so it's very important. So there's nothing to say in this. It's like mother's milk and honey. It's perfect for the world. I mean, you have to be in the Indo-Pacific, and there's no other option to that.
I want to stress that so there are many multilateral bodies, and from the Korea and Canada's perspective, I think the most important multilateral body is the G7 and APEC, because I'm not saying because Korea chairing the APEC and the Canada G7 chair, but the G7 is covers all political and economic areas, and APEC is the kind of front runner in enhancing the trade and investment expansion, because that is the reason why APEC was formed. And I want to thank Canadian government, because Korean President Lee Jae-myung made a diplomatic debut on the international stage by attending the G7 Kananaskis Summit meeting based on the invitation from the Prime Minister Kani. And that is very important, because kind of diplomatic Korea is back to the international community. That's very meaningful. And another thing that I want to mention is that our cooperation, our Korea and Canada's cooperation on G7 level is not just one-time event, because after the summit meeting, Korea was invited to attend the G7 Energy Ministers meeting in October, Foreign Ministers meeting in November, and I hope that Industry and Science Ministers meeting in December. So it is a good continuous momentum. And because of Canada's so thoughtful consideration to invite Korea to the prestigious G7 forum, provide us a very impressive foothold that Korea can be a very optimal candidate to be a G8 or G9 if G7 can expand to some extent. And also to Canada, APEC provides a good opportunity for Canada to highlight the importance of free trade, as well as enhance the economic ties with APEC, Asia Pacific's most dynamic economies. And taking this opportunity, sorry for my long remarks, but I want to share with you some tangible deliverables or outcomes between Korean President and Prime Minister Kani's meeting. The most important thing is the cooperation on the defense and security cooperation. So both nations announced defense and security and defense cooperation partnership, which is the first in kind for Canada in the Indo-Pacific. And also we also concluded a negotiation on the agreement on the protection of the military and defense classified information. And the second key outcome is the economic ties. And President Kani announced the Team Canada trade mission, consisting of many Canadian companies visiting to Korea in 2026. And there are many areas that we can cooperate, but two areas I think the most potential, most important cooperation sector might be defense and energy, because Korea, as I mentioned, the third largest energy importer. Canada is one of the leading energy powerhouse. And the two important milestones for our cooperation in the energy sector is that the first shipment of LNG Canada into Korea, and the second is the complete of the TMX project, which make it possible to bring more Canadian crude oil to Korean ports. Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, understanding that defense and security, they're one of the most important fields, and we're very happy to have with us a Korean colleague joining us from Seoul with a specialization in military and security as well. And if there are no additional comments from our esteemed speakers, I would like to ask everybody to join me in thanking our panelists. Thanks, everyone. Now we'll have the reception. So I'll invite everybody to help themselves, and now we can get to network a bit. Thank you very much.